Maybe you arrived here today carrying a tiredness you can't even explain. On the outside, everything looks normal, but inside, it feels like a storm. And deep down, that quiet question rises: God, are you still listening to me? If that has crossed your heart, take a slow breath, because this doesn't happen only to you. God sees, God understands, God stays near. There are days when the soul looks like a room left messy after a storm. Thoughts scattered, emotions overturned, questions with no answers. You try to fix everything with effort, speed, control. But the more you try to solve it all alone, the heavier it feels. And right there, heaven whispers softly, "Be still." It is written in the book of Psalms, chapter 46, verse 10. Be still and know that I am God. Notice the order. First, be still, then understand. First trust, then see. The world demands proof. God invites trust. Stopping is not weakness. Silence is not giving up. It is mature trust. It is like a seed planted in the soil. No one sees movement, but life is happening. And come, and. Even when it seems nothing is changing, God is working. Have you noticed how the mind gets loud when the heart is afraid? Fear of tomorrow, fear of loss, fear of not being enough. But it is written in the letter to the Philippians, chapter 4, verse 7, that there is a peace that surpasses all understanding. It is not explanation. It is not logic. It is presence. The presence of God holding you from within. Think about the story of Joseph in the book of Genesis. He was betrayed, sold, forgotten in a prison unjustly. The scene looked like abandonment, but it was backstage. Years later, he declared in chapter 50, verse 20, that what was meant for evil, God turned into good. Nothing was wasted, not even the pain. It may be that the season you are living right now still makes no sense. But no one understands a book by reading only one chapter. You look at the current page and think it is the ending. God sees the whole book open before him. He sees the horizon. You are still at the window. The human heart wants quick answers. God usually works through deep processes. The heart wants control. God offers care. And when you exchange control for trust, something inside begins to rest. Stillness does not change who God is. It changes how you perceive him. When the inner noise quiets, faith begins to breathe. When the soul slows down, hope starts to walk again. And when the heart becomes still, God's voice becomes clear. And there is something many people only discover after learning to be still. Silence is not the destination. It is the doorway. Because after it comes a deeper step, a harder step, a step called surrender. Have you noticed how anxiety likes to hide behind the word control? You think you're organizing, but actually, you're trying to guarantee. Guarantee that nothing goes wrong. Guarantee no one hurts you. Guarantee the pain won't return. But the more you try to hold everything, the more tired you become. Because control is heavy when you weren't meant to carry it alone. There is a quiet restlessness that grows when you feel you must solve everything. Solve it fast, solve it right, solve it now. But the soul was not created to live under that pressure. It was created to trust. And trusting sometimes feels harder than fighting. It is written in the book of Psalms, chapter 37, verse 5. Commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he shall bring it to pass. Look closely. Surrender comes before he acts. It is not act to trust. It is trust to see him act. Many people think surrender means giving up, but it is not quitting, it is direction. It is like stepping into a boat and letting the boatman steer. You are still in the boat. You are just not rowing alone anymore. That is not loss of control. It is a transfer of responsibility. Look at the story of Moses in the book of Exodus. Standing before the sea with an army behind him, he had no strategy. Humanly speaking, there was no escape. But God said in chapter 14, verse 14, "The Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace." While he trusted, God acted. The human heart wants visible guarantees. God works with invisible certainties. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1 explains that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. In other words, faith is not born when you see. It is born when you choose to trust without seeing. Picture a puzzle being assembled behind a curtain. You only see scattered pieces. God sees the finished image. You think it looks confusing. He knows exactly where every piece belongs. And do you know what unsettles the heart the most? It is when time passes and nothing seems to change on the outside. But God's timing is not delay, it is preparation. Just like a seed does not bloom the same day it is planted. First comes root, then comes fruit. Right now, there may be situations you are still trying to control by force. Relationships, future, decisions, answers. And without noticing, that slowly drains your peace. Because everything you try to govern in God's place becomes weight. And constant weight exhausts the soul. There comes a moment in the spiritual journey when you understand something deep. Peace does not come when everything is solved. Peace comes when you surrender. And whoever learns to surrender discovers a rest that effort could never produce. But there is a secret even more transformative behind that surrender. There is a kind of tiredness that doesn't show in the body, only in the soul. You keep working, smiling, talking, but inside you feel heavy, as if you were carrying something invisible all the time. No one notices, no one sees. But God sees. God always sees. There are moments when all you want is to truly rest. Not just sleep, rest within. Rest from thoughts, pressures, inner demands. And it is curious, because the more you try to fix everything first, the farther rest seems. As if peace were always one step ahead. It was exactly to people like that Jesus spoke in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 28. "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Notice the detail. He did not call the strong. He called the weary. He called those who already tried and couldn't do it alone. The rest Christ offers does not depend on perfect circumstances. He did not say, "Come when everything is solved." He said, "Come as you are." That changes everything, because it means peace begins before the solution. Think about the story of Job. He lost possessions, health, stability, answers. For a time, it seemed like God was silent. But in the book of Job, chapter 42, verse 2, he declares, "I know that you can do all things, and no purpose of yours can be thwarted." His rest was born when he recognized who God was. That is how God's presence works. It does not always remove you from the battle, but it sustains you inside it. It does not remove every question, but it strengthens your faith while they remain. It is like cool shade in the heat of the desert. The sun is still there, but it no longer destroys you. Isaiah wrote something powerful in chapter 40, verse 31. "But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength." It does not say they will never grow tired. It says they will be renewed. In other words, weariness comes, but it does not stay. Many people look for rest in distractions. Others look for it in quick answers. Some look for it in people. But true rest is not a place, it is a presence. And presence is not found by rushing, it is found by remaining. Remaining in God is like staying near a fountain. You do not need to produce water, it flows. You do not need to force peace, it springs up. John chapter 15 verse 4 teaches, "Abide in me, and I in you." Whoever remains connected lives sustained. And little by little you begin to realize something transforming. The rest your soul was searching for was not at the end of the journey. It was in the companionship along the way. Because true peace is not the absence of struggle. It is the presence of Christ in the middle of it, and that opens an even deeper understanding. You made it this far, and that already says a lot about you. Not everyone has the courage to face their own soul, recognize their weariness, and seek rest in God. But you came, you listened, you stayed. And now the question is no longer whether God spoke. The question is, what will you do with what you heard? Because knowledge that doesn't become practice becomes weight. A word that doesn't become action becomes an echo. And faith that doesn't move weakens. So let me ask you gently, what do you need to surrender today? Which worry are you still trying to control alone? You realize throughout this journey that nothing is by chance. God wastes nothing. God ignores no tears. God delays no purpose. Even when it seemed like silence, He was working. Even when it looked like confusion, there was purpose. Even when it felt like a pause, it was preparation. Now think with me, honestly. What if the peace you are seeking isn't in changing your circumstances, but in deciding to trust while they don't change? What if the rest you want isn't at the end of the battle, but in God's presence in the middle of it? Maybe today is the day to mark a new spiritual beginning. Not a loud beginning, but a deep one. Not based on passing emotion, but on a firm decision. Because lives change when sincere decisions are made in God's presence. And a single decision can redefine an entire story. So here is a simple and powerful challenge. Starting today, set apart a daily moment of silence with God. It can be 5 minutes, it can be 10, but be consistent, be sincere, be present. Deep roots grow in quiet soil. If this message spoke to you, write in the comments, "I choose to trust." That is not just a phrase, it is a spiritual declaration. And declarations strengthen convictions. Besides, your message may encourage someone who is reading in silence. Sometimes your faith is the answer to someone else's prayer. And if you want to keep growing, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because every week, there are messages like this to strengthen your journey. In the pinned comment, there's a special support resource to help you practice everything you learned today. It's not about watching, it's about living. It's not about feeling, it's about remaining. Now tell me honestly, will you keep carrying everything alone? Or will you trust the one who can do all things? Will you keep fighting in your own strength? Or will you rest in His presence? Will you keep running without direction? Or will you walk guided? The decision isn't in heaven, it's in your heart. And decisions of faith always open new paths.